Welcome to our Thursday exclusive with the Build Capable XCL team. And this week we have Josh Cavalier here with us, which I am super excited about because we're going to talk about AI and not just AI of the artificial kind. We're going to talk about why actual intelligence is so important as part of this process. But we're going to talk about AI and we're going to talk about what in the world does that have to do with XCL. And so, Josh, welcome.
Great to be here.
So I've known Josh for a very long time, and I've gotten to see your work over so many years, from e-learning to video to AI. And I think that it's been really interesting to watch your work and what you've shared with the community over the years, because everything has built on itself, right? All of the things that you've done really now have such a huge impact for the learning and development community.
Yeah, what's interesting is I was just telling a story yesterday to somebody. When I first got started doing training with Lodestone, I was concerned about the Adobe product cycle, which was then a year and a half or 2 years. And so now we get to this point where there is this hyperactivity and things change every single day. And as learning practitioners, how do we show up and support in our companies and the people that we serve? It's incredibly difficult. These are difficult conversations people are having today.
And it's so different now, to your point, to be learning something and then by the time you feel like you've got it, it's outdated and some new models released or some new process is released or the tool changes. And so the things that I guess we expected as we built expertise prior now have changed. And I think one of the things that I want to start us off with today is actually talking about your AI intensive, because you've created a
Yeah.
program to try to help people adapt to this frequent change and learn these skills that will evolve quickly.
Yeah. When I first started, it was very tactic oriented. It was about prompting, and it was about what can these models do? How do they work? It was about AI literacy. And then now we've gotten to the point where we start to see these functions within platforms, within tools. And the AI intensive, if I had to boil it down to one word, it's about agency. It's about individuals coming in as professionals and experiencing what does it mean to actually go in and do the deep work with these tools and make a decision. Like, do I want to go ahead and use my own model or a model that's out there or a tool that's coming into the marketplace or an AI function within an existing tool that I have? And so it's really more the whole AI intensive is that exploration of going in and giving yourself agency so that you can make the decision as a professional how to best go in and do that work so that you can put something out there to make an impact on the business when it changes every single week.
That's such a good point. And especially right now, there are so many tools to choose from. You have so many options. And some of that gets reined in based on the organization where you work, policies or lack thereof. And so sometimes it's not even skill set, it's just what are you able to do within your organization or what do you have access to? I'm really interested in, like, in your intensives, what are some of the tools that you all explore and how do those conversations happen?
Yeah, and we go through, and there's this scenario that they go through. They have to get their investigative hat on and go in and figure out exactly what the heck is going on with this business. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to get into all the details, but it is pretty cool. Has something to do with robots in a restaurant. And so they go through and they find out, like, oh my gosh, this situation's happening. We need to go ahead and nip it in the bud, get some training out there. And so we take it all the way through, from performance consulting to learning needs analysis to action mapping to actually creating content. But then there's so many different ways you can get that content out there today. I can go ahead and make an avatar, I can make a video, a PDF. I can go in and make a course using an authoring tool like 7Taps or Storyline or whatever you got. But then in this age of AI, there are so many different ways that we can go in and create outputs. And everybody latched on to Notebook LM and creating podcasts. And now that's taking off. Now there's multiple vendors where you can go in and create that experience. If we have all these experiences, how the heck are we tracking them? Just because you can go in and create what potentially could move the needle, okay, got it. Are they actually watching, listening, consuming, pushing the buttons? What are they doing? And that's where XCL comes into play. And so they take them all the way through. They get a capstone project at the end. They can determine the output type that they want. And then we upload them all into XCL, and everybody gets to try everyone else's project. So we have data from everybody. And then we go in and we take a look at the data. And then the last cohort, we were going in and downloading that data and then analyzing the data back in whatever model they want. So they could go back in the Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT and then do the analysis of the xAPI information coming back from the interaction types.
I love that. I was thinking about future movies. Every future movie that you see, there's always some kind of action happening. And then they pass by some hologram person who's there to help. And they always ignore the hologram person. And they're like, where's the map? And how do we find out where we are? And the person's like, how can I help? They're just ignoring the hologram. And I think about when we're delivering all this content, to your point, who cares if you can do it faster if it's not useful? Who cares if you can be more efficient? You just keep dumping content on people.
Right.
So what? Well, and so how does that even matter? And how do we know that it mattered or that it was useful at all? And I think that's what's really interesting here as far as the use case that XCL plays.
Yeah. And so we are going to get to a point where hyper personalization is going to massively come into play. And I had a whole talk this week about that topic, specifically around meeting people where they are at. And I know the topic of accessibility is very important to you. And that is so true. To be able to finally go in and hyper personalize experiences and meet people where they're at. So we may have a business problem that we need to solve, and we go in and we create these experiences for our frontline workers or our workforce, hyper personalized, targeting this business problem. We still got to make sure, are we meeting our goal through measurement? XCL is perfect because in the age of AI and hyper personalization, we need the ability to go ahead and track all of these and bring all that data in, because data from a video and data from a PDF and data from a personalized interactive experience, those are all different data sets targeting the same business problem. There is nothing else out there that can do that. Only XCL.
And I think that it's really interesting because when xAPI came along, this has been a decade ago. So the xAPI standard gave us the ability to track anything, to track video and to track PDFs and to track different things. And to your point, one of the things that a lot of folks in the xAPI community, folks that we've worked with for years, so if you think of Jeff Batt, Melissa Millway, Megan Torrance, folks that we've worked in the field with forever, Becky Goldberg, all of these folks have been incredibly innovative for a very long time. But because of the platforms and systems that have always been part of our industry,
Right.
that made it really difficult because everything had to be packaged for an LMS. And these LMSs don't allow you to even load some of this stuff. And there are LMSs that don't even let you put in a PDF or a video. And so much less infographics or hyperlinks to wiki pages or help desks or whatever. And it's certainly not AI chats. There's none of that. So we have this standard to use. We just didn't have the tooling. And I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot over the years is we've talked about how do we get content to people and remove that extra layer of interface? Like, how do we remove the need for people to have to go to a platform and look at this more as tooling? Give me the tools to help me piece together the parts that I want to use and the things that I need to do.
So I have a a pretty awesome example of hyper-personalization. And just to tee this up, so one of the things that happened over the last couple weeks is up on LinkedIn. If you're even on LinkedIn, you've noticed that everyone has made themselves a Mattel toy of themselves. And that is all because of what's happening with GPT-4o and the ability to go ahead and create images. A lot of people don't even know that the way that GPT-4o makes an image and the way that Midjourney makes an image, there are some nuances in there. And if you are in the graphic arts, advertising, marketing, or even thinking about leveraging one of these models to automatically create images, you better know how those models work. And with my long history of teaching media, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could just spin up a really quick interaction that went in and described, not only just described it, but showed it and made it interactive to show these 3 different ways that these images are created. So I'm just going to share with you what I did and how long it took to make this interaction. This is Google Gemini. And so this is the actual conversation I went in and had with Gemini. And I said, create an application that will help me understand how autoregression works when generating an image using generative AI. I was shocked because it went in and actually built out this interaction. I'm not going to give it away just yet. So I went in and I'll just show you. I'm not going to get into like the conversation itself, but I went in and I had this whole conversation. I went back and forth. And so maybe this whole conversation took me approximately 15 or 20 minutes tops. And the end result is this. So this is using, and for those of you that are not familiar, this is called vibe programming, where I went back and forth with Gemini 2.5 on this vision in my head of this interaction. And so I can go in and say, okay, this is autoregressive, read about it, and watch it build the image. So this is me interacting with it. I can say generate all, boom. And then here's adversarial. So this is yet another image generation, and I can go ahead and watch it and see the math as far as it's improving the image. And then here's diffusion. This is Midjourney. So now I can go in and watch that. Now, how long back in the day would it take me to build something like this to where I can get the specific visual? I would probably have to go ahead and make static images and lock them. It'd take me a full day. I did it in 20 minutes. Not only that, it's built on top of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so I can put an xAPI wrapper on this thing and have it track immediately, all in 20 minutes. This is radically going to change the way that instructional designers are going to operate within their environment, because they're not only going to be able to spin up interactions like this, they're going to spin up bi-directional, avatar-driven conversations if you want to do scenario-based, whatever. And it's only just a matter of compute, having the right tools, having the right platforms. But at the end of the day, no matter what you create, you still got to track it.
And that reminds me of, I know we were talking before we started about a project that Melissa Millway's been talking about very publicly. She built a leaderboard that she plugged into Rise, and she coded this leaderboard, which a leaderboard is great and it can gamify your content for sure. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting about how she did this is, one, that she did it in Rise, which is a miracle in itself. And 2, she was using Replit, which is a tool that helps you code much faster. But one of the things that she was working through was, could she get data from other people that were also taking that course and then pull it back into the leaderboard in real time in Rise? That's really impressive, because all she had to do was build out the code. She injected it into Rise. And then she was able to pull the data back out of XCL, because she's distributing it using XCL. All of that data is going into the XCL database, which is the LRS. She's just pulling that data in real time back out of the LRS. There's no dashboard being built somewhere. Just that functionality. I can think of so many different ways to take that. If you think of conceptually being able to get data into the LRS, get that data out of your content and into a database, and being able to pull that back out and use it in your content again. And we think about all of the ways that we can even amplify that using AI and potentially use that
Yeah.
data in other ways. There are a lot of really interesting things that you can do, but
Yeah.
you have to get the data. You can't just dump a bunch of content on people and not know what's happening or how they're using it or anything about performance, and add on to that tying in maybe on the job data, right?
Yep.
And other things that, by the way, using xAPI, we could also track. So there's so many interesting, nerdy things that we can learn about using xAPI. But I think the thing that's most interesting right now is how easy you're making all of this in your intensive by saying, here is a tool, and here's an AI powered tool you can use. Here's XCL that automates. You don't have to know anything about xAPI.
Right.
It automates all that for you, right? And here are the ways that you can learn about all this data that's being collected. The way you can export that out of XCL, pull that into whatever AI model you want to use, and ask it questions about your data set. So there are so many different options that you have now without having to have super advanced expertise in coding, which is something that I think our field has tried to push us to do for years now. Is, oh, you need to learn HTML, you need to learn CSS, you need to learn JavaScript, you need to learn xAPI. And people in our field are like, I just want to teach people. I'm an instructional designer.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I know that you've been working a lot, Josh, on like hyper personalized content and how AI can handle that. And in a previous conversation, we talked about how you see XCL really being able to help tracking hyper personalized content. Could you talk a little bit about what you've seen and where you
Yeah.
think that's going?
Okay. So it's funny how puzzle pieces fall into place in the age of AI. One moment it's abstract, and the next it comes in the clear vision, in clear view, and it just happened this week. So if we think about the example that I just described or just shown, right? Back when I first started, it would take probably 6 months to go ahead and rev it. You'd have to go through all these. The world doesn't work like that anymore. If there was a new way to draw an image and I had to update that information or update that particular interaction, it may not even come from me anymore. It may come from information out on the front lines, and based upon skill data, oh my gosh, our artists or whatever, they need to understand this new form of image creation. And then I'm going to get a little email or a nudge on my phone that says, hey, by the way, should we update this interaction based upon this new reality out in the world? Do you want to say yes or no? Yes, do it. Okay, you look at it, boom, it's out there. And that's all through model context protocol and agent to agent communication, which Anthropic and Google pretty much made a reality within the last 3 months or 4 months. That wasn't there before. And so hyper personalization of experiences based upon the acceleration or what's happening with business is a reality. And so the L&D function, which for the most part has been reactive, depending upon the project that you're using, we're in the driver's seat now. We can be proactive and work with the business and grab that information or grab that data that's happening to the business and proactively engage our associates and meet them where they're at and give them experiences that will totally transform the way that they do their work every day. And it excites me because having been in this industry for 30 years, that was not a reality. There was always barriers to that, and those barriers are starting to just erode away.
So, in the time that we have left, what are some of the things that you think would be most helpful for people if they were going to play with something today? And we've talked all this shop today and all of these different technologies and things we could do. But if someone wanted to just play with something today, one, they should reach out and check out your AI intensive if they really wanted to get some guidance,
Pretty quick.
because that's giving you dedicated time to actually work with someone to take you through that process. Is there a thing that someone should be doing or learning? What should they do to get started?
I think for all instructional designers or anyone that's creating a learning experience, there's been moments where you're like, I wish I had X. I wish my application can do this. Open up Gemini 2.5 Pro. If you don't have access to, at least within your Google account, go into the AI Studio in Google and ask it. So create a canvas and ask it to create in your mind that application. What is that learning application? And I think you're going to be shocked how close it could actually get into taking your vision. Just to give you an example, I have taken video time codes, and I haven't shown people this yet. And I've asked Gemini 2.5 to go ahead and create a full interactive video architecture around that one video with interactions and everything that could be trackable. But we haven't been able to do that before. And my recommendation is for everyone to give themselves enough room to experiment. That's really critical. I can go ahead and tell you and show you things, but it's when you experience it for yourself, you'll know exactly how it's going to fit into the way that you do your work every day. And that's really critical. And the reason why I say Gemini 2.5 is because it's one of the best vibe programming models that's out there this week. If they change next week, but that would be my recommendation. So if you're comfortable enough, and of course, it may not get it the first time. You may have to continue to have a conversation, but I am shocked what it can do with a zero shot prompt. It's amazing.
I agree. When we built we have a build capable XCL data explorer, and I trained that model in ChatGPT only because that's the one we use in our organization. We have an organizational account and we can use the API. But one of the things that I found that was really interesting is when we exported data out of XCL, when we just exported the CSV file and imported it into ChatGPT, when I just did that with no prompting, it gave me so much information. So I could upload that CSV file and I just asked it, what can you tell me about this data set? What can you tell me about how many people started this video? How many people played this video? And there is a recording of us going over that GPT that we built on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested, I can add that to the comments after this session today. But one of the things that I found was interesting was just how well it worked out of the gate. And then I trained the GPT to then expect a certain data format from XCL specifically, which allowed me to get way more detailed in how I wanted it to help people. Because if you have a trained model, then you can just ask it how to use it.
That's right.
And I love being able to talk to these different chats and these different models to say, tell me how to use you. I want to, I don't know, build a simulation. What do you need from me? I want to create this thing. Tell me how would I best use you? How can I best work with you? And I think when you ask it questions in a more conversational manner, it tends to just tell you what it needs.
You brought up a good point. I know we're almost at time, but I think this last point is going to be really important as we move forward. One of the benefits I'm seeing at the business level if you're on a Microsoft tenant or a Google workspace, that people think that they can go in and start looking at a SharePoint repository and start doing all kinds of crazy AI stuff with unstructured data, right? And you can, and that's fine. But to your point, Sarah, if the data is structured, you can do so much more faster with it and know that it's a source of truth. And I have a feeling that so many people are going to get into a trap of using unstructured data because they have access to it to do deep work, and they're going to get burned.
And that's where it hallucinates. That's where it starts to fail at scale because it's not trained to do what you want it to do. And we talked about that. Teresa Dussault on my team, she said, it's going to be the most boring unboxing video ever, trying to get all of our content out of all of these packaged things, e-learning and all of these, like to get that back out again and to get that content set up in a way where we can actually work with it and to get our data in a consistent format, which is where you started this conversation. And one of the things that XCL does really well, XCL uses established ADL xAPI profiles to say, here's how you track this video. This is a standardized way you do each of these things. And if in an organization, they have their own way of reporting that data, XCL lets you modify that translator to say, here's how we do it in our organization. And I think that control over how the data goes in, it's garbage in, garbage out. But to your point, if you structure it and you know the model knows what to expect, and the model knows what you're trying to do with it. If you can train it to do that, then it can work with those data. If you just go in and say, hey, tell me about this, then, it starts to hallucinate.
Right.
I want to say thank you so much for joining us. And I think it's so cool. I love hearing the feedback after you do each of your intensives and the comments that we're getting. What were you saying? Some of the folks were saying in the session about PDFs.
They just felt they had no idea first that you could track a PDF like that or a video. And you didn't need any other system. It just worked out of the box.
Yeah, you didn't have to go through all those other steps. You just load it up and start tracking. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you all next week. Thanks, Josh, for being here. Y'all have a good one.